Hi, FiveOneYouth. Today we're talking about this idea of making room, making space. This past Sunday we welcomed in a new 6th grade class, and so new 6th graders are coming into our youth group, but we've also been seeing other visitors joining our youth group, and so we're going to talk about what does it mean to make space or make room for somebody. And yes, this is referring to physical space, making sure there are chairs set out, making sure someone has a seat to sit in. But it's also about making space emotionally. When you're in a circle of friends and you widen that circle and you invite somebody and you're making a space for them to join your friend group. You're making space for them to be a part of our community. So when we talk about making space, an illustration when we can think of this is when a family has another child. So you have that first child, they come home from the hospital, the parents are focused on that first child, loving them, but then you have the second child come home. And then the first child has to reckon with, okay, my parents have to focus on the newborn baby, and they don't have as much time for me. And sometimes you'll see conflict. You'll have the older child, the first child, acting out a little bit because they're not getting the attention that they're used to having before that second child showed up. And they have to learn, okay, we have to make space for this new child to come in. But also there's this question the first child might ask, well, do my parents love me anymore? Or do they just love this new child? Well, the thing is, it's not like the parents' love for the first child was cut in half, and half was left with the first child, and the other half was given to the second child. That's not how it works. No, it's when the second child came home, the parents' heart expanded. They made room for them, and their love grew to include both children. It's the difference between a cup and a balloon. See, a cup you can fill to a certain point, but that's it. That's all it can hold, and eventually it'll overflow. Whereas a balloon, when you go to blow air into it, will stretch and get bigger. And so if you just look at them against each other, well, a balloon, of course, would not be able to hold as much as a cup. But if you know the balloon can stretch and grow, you can see how it makes space for more air. Same with love. Love is not about this set container that we have. We only have this certain amount of love that we can give out. No, it's rather that our capacity to love can be stretched and grown and made room for other people. So we don't have to feel threatened by including someone in our friend group or making our friend group wider and bringing more people in. And this is what Paul talks about to the Corinthians in the scriptures. He says, we have spoken freely to you, Corinthians. Our heart is wide open. You are not restricted by us. But then he says this, but you are restricted in your own affections. You're restricted in your own affections. In return, I speak to you as children, kind of a slight, but I'm speaking to you as children. Widen your hearts also. 1 Corinthians 6:11-13. So look at Paul saying, look, we have widened our hearts for you, to include you, to love you, to bring you into our Christian community. And you're not restricted by us, but you are restricted in your own affections. Your affections are too small. You're too small-minded. You're too closed off. You need to widen your hearts as well. And so Paul is encouraging them to expand their hearts, to make room for other people to come in. And this is actually something that God gave to the children of Israel. So when they came out of Egypt, God gave them a specific set of rules about how they were to conduct themselves as a nation. And this is one of those rules about how they were to treat a stranger or somebody coming in that's from outside their community. So this is what God tells the children of Israel in Leviticus 19:33 and 34. He says, when a stranger sojourns with you or stays with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus 19:33-34. So God was saying, first off, just to set the ground rule, you shouldn't do them wrong. You shouldn't harm them in any way. And so if we think about that in our own context, is if somebody comes in and joins our fellowship, we shouldn't slander them, right? We shouldn't make fun of them for the way they look or exclude them because of the way they act or talk or whatever it may be, or the way they look. We should welcome them in and include them. He says you should treat them as the native. Treat them as the other FiveOneYouth members that have been here their entire lives. ever since they were young and they've been there for 5 years. Right? You should treat the new person just like they're a friend, like they're always here. Include them right away. Don't treat them as a stranger, and treat them as a member of the group. And then God says this, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I want you to think about a time when you were a stranger, right? Maybe it was a time you went to a new place, a new school, a new class, a new party, whatever it may be, where you didn't know people and you felt like you were an outsider and you felt awkward and you're like, oh, I don't know anybody. Remember a time when that happened to you. Now remember, what would you desire to have happen in that moment? I know what I would. When I've been in those places, I wish somebody would just came up to me and said, hi, my name is so-and-so, what's your name? And then we started talking, they said, okay, what do you like to do for fun? What do you like to do on the weekend? What do you like to do when you have free time? And I share that and they share theirs and we find some common ground and we talk about it for a while. That is what we want to happen. And so God was saying, look, you were, to the children of Israel, you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You know what it's like to be a foreigner, to be an outsider, to be different than people, to be pushed out to the fringes. You know what that's like. And because you know what that's like, now you should have compassion and empathy on others who are experiencing the same thing. And that goes for us too. We all know what it's like to be awkward, or to be an outsider, or to be left out, or to feel alone. Since we know what it's like, that gives us the courage, or that should give us the courage to step out and say, okay, I know what it's like. I know how painful that is. So I'm going to reach out and I'm going to befriend and be kind to and welcome in that new person, that stranger, into our group. So Vivek Murthy has this quote about empathy. He says, empathy is the ability and the power to see ourselves in another person who's very different than us. What does he mean by that? To see ourselves. What he means by that is that we are all connected in the same way. We are all humans made in the image of God. We all have desires and fears and insecurities and passions and goals and mistakes and we have all of these things. We can relate to each other on those things. So when I look at another person, I don't just see an ordinary human being. I see someone who has dreams and goals and desires, and like I do. And we can connect on that, and we can reach out and I can befriend them. That they have insecurities just like I have insecurities, like you have insecurities. And so we can reach across that divide and invite them in. And God ends this verse, these two verses, with this powerful proclamation. He says, I am the Lord your God. What does he mean by this? He's like, well, not just treat others like you would treat yourself, not just treat others like a native, not just treat others like you would want to be treated when you were a stranger, when you were an outcast. He says the reason that we should welcome in strangers and those different than us and welcome them in and include them is because I am the Lord your God, because I am Yahweh, and because God made every single person in his image. He loves them. He desires a relationship with them. He is pursuing them in his own way. He is their God and he loves them, and we should love them too. So God says, do this, welcome in the stranger, because I am the Lord your God. And loving people isn't always easy, right? In fact, it's very difficult, and sometimes people are difficult. I've had many experiences in my life, again, not here at this church or in this youth group, but I've had many experiences where I meet somebody and we didn't get along. Our personalities clashed. We didn't see eye to eye on some things. We had differences. Maybe they got on my nerves. I got on their nerves. But we can still love each other. I can still love that person. I still care about them. I can still welcome them and make them feel included and a part of the group. Even though we have those difficult conflicts. Even though it's difficult to love them. Bob Goff said it this way. He said, love difficult people. Love difficult people. In fact, we are called to love difficult people. God loves us, and we're difficult. Bob Goff put it this way. He says, love difficult people. Love difficult people. This is our calling. We're meant to love those who are maybe difficult to love, harder to accept, harder to get along with. Because we all have those people that kind of gets on our nerves, and God is calling us to love them anyway. But this is actually the second part of Bob Goff's statement. He says, love difficult people. Why? Because you're one of them. Right? We all have our difficult pieces. I can be annoying sometimes. I can get on people's nerves. You can have your own awkward quirks or whatever it may be. Right? We're all difficult to love at times. We can all be rude or snobbish or all of these things. Right? We can all make mistakes like that. And so we want people to love us as well. And so we're called to love difficult people. Why? Because we're one of them. We need that love as well. So God calls us to love difficult people. He calls us to welcome in the stranger. He calls us to widen our hearts, to welcome people in, to make them feel included and a part of this fellowship. And that is our call. That is our vision. And can you imagine what FiveOneYouth would be like if someone would walk in who's never been here before, doesn't know anybody, and immediately you have 3, 4, 5 people walk up to them, introduce themselves. Hi, my name is so-and-so. Would you like to sit beside me during service? Hi, my name is so-and-so. Let me introduce you to my friends. Hi, my name is so-and-so. What school do you go to? What do you like to do on the weekends? Can you imagine what a difference that would make in our youth group? Can you imagine how more whole and loving and wonderful our youth group would be if we practiced this principle of welcoming in and loving in those people who are new, who are different than us, who look different, act different, whatever it may be, who just coming off the streets. How do we love them? How do we include them? How do we make them feel like they belong? And this is the thing about compassion. Compassion is easy to talk about. It's easy to get all excited about. Like, yeah, we need to love people. We need to encourage people. But if you really want to grow your compassion, find somebody who needs compassion and show it to them. Passion is easy to talk about. It's easy to think about. It's easy to talk about with ourselves, right? And inside the group. But if you really want to grow in compassion, if you really want to grow in love, if you really want to expand your heart to make you a better and greater person with greater character, you have to find somebody to love, show compassion to. Even though it may be difficult at times, we just remember we're difficult too at times. And God has always loved and pursued us and pursued a friendship relationship with us. Thank you for watching this video on making room and making space for other people. You know, you have a place here at FiveOneYouth. We love you. We want to welcome you and want to include you in our group. We want to become friends with you. We ask for your patience. We're still growing in this area, but we want you to be a part of the solution, to help love people, to help welcome people, to help build a community of love and fellowship.